Pleasure to welcome you now is the keynote speaker who is going to present this last paper, Lukasz Porwol. Without him, the whole compact project would not exist because beside being the coordinator of the project now, he is also the author of the project as such. And whoever tried to submit the project to any European funding knows how much work goes into that and how uncertain is the outcome. Of course, this project has been so elegantly and so interestingly formulated that the European Union could not do anything else but accept it. Thank you for making this actually possible, and thank you also for having our Lisbon team working in that. As I said, this is a very challenging project for all of us. Lukasz Porwol has worked on these issues of the changing practices in science production and in using technology for supporting science production on many issues. Of course, cybersecurity, as this roundtable before, is one of the aspects. When I was listening to these many dangers that come from the lack of cybersecurity, I thought that one good thing that we all could do is also to think again why and what do we actually want to share. That was a suggestion also given by our guests. The second thing is why and how do we want to participate in these kind of media and things. And when it comes then to, for instance, academic and scientific studies. And I think one of the key, or two of the keywords that you were actually working with in your scientific work have to do with these issues of participation, why and how, and also of sharing data or not sharing, and how and why. And today he will present another step in his reflection, now taking into account the role of artificial intelligence in this whole endeavor, and I'm very, very interested to listen to you. Thank you, Lukasz, for being here.
I'll take this off so I can be prepared much better this way. So thank you very much, Peter, for this excellent line of introduction. It's been a great pleasure to be here in Portugal, in Lisbon, this wonderful university. You have lovely weather. Ireland is almost the same, very close. But yeah, slightly lacking the department. But yeah, so thank you for coming and for staying with us till now. It's late. I know everybody would like to take rest and maybe eat something at that stage. But yeah, thank you for staying here with us. And yeah, so I would like to finish this symposium, which has been, I think, a great success, and congratulations again to the whole team for hosting. Is looking to the future with a bit of a hope. Because unfortunately, what happens in all these discussions about social media regulation and issues, yeah, we tend to be very negative, and we say this is bad, that is bad, we have to do something about it. But I would say, so I'd like to say, okay, what's the potential? What we can do more? Of course, there's issues. There's always issues, but let's look a bit with a positive eye in the future. And the topic today is how artificial intelligence and immersive technologies are changing the world as we know it, and that's the future of tech-driven society. So I will take you on a journey now. So starting, I would like to spin a bit of engagement first. This is how we perceived AI in 50s and 60s. You know, if you watch any of the old movies, old sci-fi, or check old comic books, this is how AI is represented. It's this kind of big metal can-like robot, talking usually very evil, you know, related to aliens sometimes. So this is the understanding of AI. It evolved a lot, and for a lot of people, for general public, this is AI. This is all these drones, which are very dangerous because they're all around us, and you know, they fly around the airports and everybody's paralyzed by them, so it's just terrible, absolutely. But anyway, so this is the understanding of AI for general public as well. This is a bit closer to home and maybe safer. This is a German company, I think, offering self-driving bus. I actually had the pleasure to go on one of these in Smart Cities Conference in Barcelona, very impressive piece of technology. Yeah, so this is kind of closer to home. People have mixed feelings about it. You know, okay, can we actually trust this? Put our life in line with this? I don't know. How many of you would trust self-driving bus? Yeah. Don't be shy.
Not in Lisbon.
Not in in Germany. In Germany, it will work. That's why they are starting in Germany. I don't know. So yeah, people say I don't know, but if you think about it, you put your life in the hands, if you can say, of AI or mind of AI, like flying every time you fly. I mean, there is a pilot, but this thing, come on, it does almost everything automatically, you know? The pilot is just there just in case, and when just in case sometimes doesn't work, we have a tragedy, unfortunately, and that happens because we rely too much on that technology as well. So there has to be double thinking here. To, of course, augment what human is doing, but also not to jeopardize basic safety. And that's, I think, the biggest challenge. I don't think we have to fear it, we just need to do it well. So this is, again, an evolving understanding of AI. So we have this kind of very dangerous and a bit closer to home. And finally, AI, which is a companion. AI which is a companion, form of an assistant. I'm here to help you, to support you, right? This is kind of closer home. And kind of when we see those humanoid or cute robots, we tend to kind of think, you know, have warmer feelings around it. And actually somebody mentioned in the last talk that, yeah, the child would trust a lot, right? Sorry, yeah. Would trust a lot. This AI is so nice, so cute, it's always there to help me. I really trust it. So it's still evolving. And it reaches the point that AI is starting to replace some of our friends. So, you know, this is the oldest friend of mankind, apparently, according to research. So, when you check the burial sites, the oldest burial sites of Homo sapiens, there was always a dog there. You know, and apparently that gave us advantage over other species. So, dog was always there, but now we got this. So even our best friend cannot be safe anymore because there is an AI replacement for it, you know. So it's not easy. It's not easy. But you see, like how AI kind of evolves from something very abstract, something a matter of the future, extraterrestrial, almost like, to something which is very, very close to us. And yeah, he's there, and he's our friend, and he's very smiley and encouraging, right? So. This is going even further. This weird guy wearing glasses, the headset is actually me. And I am interacting with a robot that doesn't really exist. So this is basically a projection on the screen, what I see in the VR headset. And I'm interacting, dancing actually, with a VR robot. So there is artificial intelligence, we can say, because it's not super intelligent, but there's some elements to it, dancing with me in VR, and it's projected into reality so people can see what I'm doing, because I look like, you know, like a crazy guy, you know, what is he doing? So suddenly this becomes very personal. Actually, it's very immersive, because as you touch the robot, you get like a haptic feedback, so there is a sensation of touch. So it becomes very, very close and far away from what we perceived as kind of AI, which is very out there, abstract. It's becoming more and more personal, and whether it's physical or kind of augmented reality, virtual reality, I think it's passing towards this direction. So I wanted to show you something from my friend from MIT, Steven Ikakutzes, who's working in this area now intensively at MIT. So he's in a lab, and I'll try to show you something. I hope this will work. A short video, what is happening here. So I want you to observe what's going on. Okay, so you see he's interacting with this robot, and the robot should respond accordingly. Did you realize anything about this video which is a bit odd? Yes? Yeah? No? I thought you was. Yeah?
The robot doesn't exist in real life.
Yeah, exactly. So I think this is the ultimate place where we are headed. That's why MIT is researching this. It's basically that the robots transition from this kind of physical form to augmented and virtual. So as they become more and more intelligent, they also move to be totally digital. So as we become kind of digital, that intelligence also becomes digital, and we'll see only more of that. So AR is an area of massive investment now. and all the major players are there. So Apple actually made an announcement that in 2 years they're going to present augmented reality glasses that they foresee ultimately to phase out iPhone. So they want to get rid of the phones out of our pockets and move everything to our glasses. So that everything will be AR, so everyday interaction will be AR, and we will be having friends who don't exist. You know? Your imaginary friend or less imaginary friends will be all around you, and they will assist you, and they will take care of you in whatever you need to do. So this is something to think about. But after what I showed you, can you tell me what would you foresee as the biggest challenge in all those cases I showed you, finishing with this kind of virtual friend that is there, but that isn't really there. Do you see any? Can you think of any specific challenges that all those technologies I just showed you? Can you tell me anything? What would be the biggest challenge that you would think those technologies are bringing? Yeah.
The human aspect,
Human aspect. What do you mean? Can you refer a bit?
emotions,
Emotions. Yeah. What do you say?
Maybe weaponization.
Weaponization. Somebody.
Feelings.
Feelings. Okay, so human feelings, this kind of emotional aspects, weaponization, anything else? Yeah?
I think this idea that robots are gonna conquer the world, which sounded to me like a bit silly first, and then I heard about this experiment when they let two AIs communicate with each other without a human being able to see what they communicate, and then after 1 hour they opened the box. So they saw what they were doing, and they already built a cryptic new language, and then they shut down the project. And yeah, I think it sounds really dangerous.
So I was supposed to be positive, and we have a lot of fear again. My goodness, it's not good. Anything else? Any other challenges?
Also access, because we have lots of people that don't have access to like phones nowadays, so we're increasing the gap.
The gap, yes.
Yeah, the gap.
The
Sorry.
digital
Yeah.
divide, if we
Yeah.
can say, is growing with those technologies, yeah? Anything else?
Values.
Values.
Ethical values.
Ethical values, okay.
Who define ethical values?
Mm-hmm.
How to deal with imprevisibility. Someone please help.
Unpredictability. Yeah, so it will be unpredictable, will take over the world, yeah? Anything else that comes to mind? Yeah?
Control.
Control, yeah, very good.
You stop it from learning things. I mean, it's an intelligence, it's an artificial intelligence. It can learn everything it can learn, and it's not like us. We have a limit of knowledge we can have. We can't remember everything, but they're computers, they can, so...
And they will not forget.
Yeah, they won't forget it.
Yeah. So this is going even more into the future, but can you think about some immediate threats, maybe? Anything that, maybe if it's, out there, and it will be there in another 2 years quite massively because it's growing. Yeah?
Hacking.
Hacking, yeah.
Also, they require power and energy. We're already demanding a lot from the planet in terms of those things. And
We are increasing the carbon footprint by generating all those new toys, yeah? Oh, it's true, I mean, it's relevant. Okay, so I think all of you somehow addressed things that we actually learned as we studied. I would like to go back to this guy because he's quite a nice example of risks. So I'll try to start with exactly with what are the risks that we have to alleviate. I mean, this is not being, dystopia. It's just basically to anticipate things and be reasonable about it. And then I will progress to the actual opportunities and benefits because there's many. So when you look at this robot, do you have any concerns about this robot? Like, this is by Sony, this is the second release of Evo robot, which is a very friendly robot, dog robot. Do you see anything specific about the design that may create some concerns?
It's a camera.
Yeah. So there is a camera in the dog, and the dog is walking around your house, and you have not much control what the dog is doing. So the dog can film pretty much everything. And they swear. They don't store and they don't do anything about it, right? But this dog is designed to walk around and do all these things and play around. So you don't know what the dog can record, both in terms of voice and camera. So it's a walking walking like a mouse, by the way. Which can be very good, but maybe sometimes not if you don't want to be 24/7 public, but that's what it basically offers, right? And you just need to trust Sony or whatever the operator is that they don't do anything about it, but they do have that data. So going to those challenges. So this is coming from literature, we analyzed a lot of articles, as well, like lay articles. So this is like a very synopsis what we found out that, in terms of AI, XR, standardization is a big issue still. There's a lot of talking, especially in Europe, about ethics and AI. And I think Europe somehow will probably lead into that, because when you look into US or China, there's much more concern about the progress. And they progress at much faster rate than anybody else. I mean, what's going on in China, especially in terms of AI, is just unbelievable. Unfortunately, it's mainly used for, of course, for control and for intimidation. Basically, citizens are tracked 24/7, whether they drive or they walk. The cameras capture images, recognize them automatically, link them with what you're doing. When you pass on the highway, you pass like hundreds of traffic cameras. And they not only take pictures of you, but also determine where are you going at what time, and it's actually being stored officially. People say it's okay because it's increasing the safety, but there is a massive problem with that. So that's why Europe now is stepping in and trying to say we need some proper ethical frameworks before it's too late. Because we talk about something of much bigger magnitude than we talk about social media and so on. We talk about a mind that can track you in all possible way, which is always there and knows everything, absolutely everything about you, regardless of the service you're using, So this is something to be addressed. And as we progress with more and more technology, I mentioned here XR because this is actually the next thing. So all major players currently invest into XR, everybody. Facebook is one of the biggest investors. Mark Zuckerberg is full in. So they want to get 1 billion people into VR as soon as possible. They acquired the biggest VR headset producer, Oculus, if you have heard, a couple of years ago, actually, very beginning when they became popular. And they actually mainstreamed VR. It's thanks to Mark Zuckerberg and Facebook to mainstream VR, and the pace of the progress is massive. Half a year is like miles away in terms of progress. It's really huge progress there. Then in terms of regulations, of course, we have cars. There's a lot of concerns. US, again, is more liberal. There is, Teslas which drive, autonomously. Of course, you shouldn't do it like for a long time. You should just allow it to drive for a while. In Europe, there's more concern. We want to introduce cars which are safer, which rely on more different modes and different sensors, not only cameras. Then, of course, independent robots, like we mentioned, those cutie ones, but also robots which are going to operate as deliverers. So Amazon is testing a lot of automatic delivery robots and police robots, like Google is testing, for instance. So all these kind of things, this is a massive amount of concern, how to make sure that the police robot, behaves in an ethical way, because again, it will scan everything, and depending on what privileges is given, can be a bit dangerous. And then finally, look at the latest buzzword, right? The deepfakes, which are reliant on AI, right? So it's all about AI. And how do you detect deepfake? It's very difficult because it's the generated content. It's synthetic content. So it's not somebody modified the video. It's actually video which is generated. The picture is actually generated. So it's not as easy as you do now that you see, okay, that was Photoshop because there's change of the structure. Now the structure, when you look at it from the data perspective, is very nice and very smooth, because all it does, it takes the picture, it modifies it and generates a completely new picture based on that. So that causes completely different level of challenge, because even very, let's say, amateur deepfakes are very convincing. Imagine if you have proper computing power, you can virtually be as realistic deepfake as you want, and nobody will be able to tell the difference. Nobody. If you have a supercomputer, you will not be able to tell the difference, because it will be exactly as the real video and will be totally synthetically generated. So that's a new level again. If you have this AI mind behind and enough resources, you can do pretty much anything in terms of visual and also sound. So ethics, privacy, digital identity. We discussed a lot about it today. Again, new things arise. So for instance, in VR, you don't need to log in You don't need to do anything at all, and you'll be identified with 99.9% by the way you move, because it's unique to everybody. It's like your fingerprint. I actually learned it from a person from Harvard Medical School. So apparently the way you tilt your hair is unique, and that's enough to tell you 99%, 99, this is you. Just the way you move your head. So the headset, because the headset tracks your head and other parts of your body, if this information is stored, the system immediately knows this is you for sure, and you don't need to disclose anything at all. The system knows immediately that's you. Then again, through AI, that can be combined with all kind of other information, and here it goes, different privacy concern. Yes, so you enter some space, you don't know you've been tracked, but you've been identified from first second you enter the place. So there is extra challenge here. And then we discuss cybersecurity. AI and quantum computing, if they come together, that completely undermines security. Because with quantum computing, we know already we can break even the most complex encoding. In terms of cryptology, right? So most of our secure communication is based on cryptographic codes, but now it can be broken easily with quantum computing, which everybody's fighting to be as much advanced as possible. And then if you combine it with AI, it basically renders most of the security solutions completely useless. Another challenge. And finally, we are going to be mutually dependent on AI. So I call it myself the Matrix paradox. I don't know if you remember from Matrix that they realized that actually, okay, machines use this, but we can't live without them. And I think it goes towards this, that we know that the machines, all this brings a lot of risk, but we cannot live without them, and let's face it, right? So, and we cannot just go back to medieval times and say, okay, we won't use phones, we won't use all these things, we'll be great. We will, we will live like, I don't know, native people, this is not going to happen, right? Some people do, There are communities who deny that, we live in the present, they go back to the past, but that will not happen. So, yeah, we have to face this paradox. And by the way, this creature, the spider is totally real, by the way. It's like 100%, I saw that. Believe me. So, to kind of summarize again, AI and XR, so it's all around us. So it's in your Alexa, in your phone, on the web, controls your heating, air conditioning, more and more devices, pretty much everything by the end of this decade will be controlled by AI. Pretty every system. And it makes only sense because that's the only way to optimize those devices. Like I know one of our engineering buildings in Ireland got an award for best engineering building, best construction of the year. And it had a lot of interesting systems, smart systems, but they were not interconnected. So for instance, heating was working separately, air conditioning was separate, and a system that was opening the windows to bring more air, it was measuring the carbon dioxide inside, so if you were sleepy, it would open the windows. So they were not integrated. So now they need AI to bring them all together to work smartly, because otherwise, the heating goes on, air conditioning does its own thing, windows are opening, everything does its own thing, and it's a nice symphony, but it's not very optimal in terms of energy consumption. To say the least. So again, now there is another system on top of that using AI to control all of it. So it will naturally go all in all those places. And yeah, the AI replaces our closest friends. So dogs are first to go, but I think at some stage even our friends and maybe even partners will go. We see more and more applications of this kind. So a lot of research goes into, you mentioned emotion simulation, emotion recognition. Alexa already has a motion API. So Alexa is already able to respond differently dependable on the emotional state detected. So she would provide different answer.
Google too.
Sorry? Google too.
Yeah.
So this first step, second step is actually to simulate emotion and have contextual information impacting it. But this is not far off. They're introducing step by step. So you mentioned all these human aspects. I think robots can become very, very human. But also you have no control over them, so they can be a bit seductive. There's a lot of movies now, popular movies that challenge these aspects. I think it was called Ex Machina from, you saw that? It's very interesting, like it undermines the love, the robot. What does it mean if a robot loves you? Just to achieve something, or is it real love? I think it's a very interesting problem raised there. So if you have this ideal partner that understands you in all aspects, and it's artificial, can you still trust him or her, or it, I don't know, because we also, whether we should call them her or she is another thing. So this is coming, and because this technology progresses, and the sad thing is, again, I said, you can see that in Europe, we are so concerned with all these valid things, which is ethics, that we fall behind in terms of technology. So those who don't really think about it, they dictate the rules, because there's no European Alexa, and there will not be probably. So is Google Assistant. So we can define our great rules, but great, because you go at the end of the day by Alexa. So I think there is a need for kind of a better framework or compromise in European market, saying that these things are important, but we also need to stay competitive in this market in order to have anything to say. Because otherwise we have very nice conversation here as those technologies are being developed without our inputs. And they won't care. So I'm saying, like, in order to have an impact of those, we also need to catch up, and then we can start to also incorporate those things. But we need to stay competitive. So the list goes on and on. I say AI is everywhere, and the thing is blending. Like this picture below is from Facebook Spaces. Now it's removed to a new platform called Facebook Horizon, which is a new VR platform for interaction that will be released in half a year from now, I think. So it blends, for instance, interaction in real and VR. I am a VR person. I called my friend Catherine from Boston, and we were chatting in VR. I just called her on her phone, from virtual phone, and she was totally like, wow, what is going on? So, and I could have an artificial person there as well, AI, and could talk together. So this is very, kind of mind-blowing. In terms of AI and XR, so AR completely infiltrated us already. We have it in all kinds of mobile apps. You have Instagram, Snapchat, and everybody's using these lovely extra overlays that make us laugh. IKEA introduced a lot of AR apps to better plan your interior design. I don't know if you ever tried. You can do all kinds of things with the furniture using AR and your mobile phone. I mentioned that Facebook acquired largest VR player Oculus. They released many affordable headsets, and they are pretty sold out. So this is happening, whether you like it or not, it's happening. And major trends, we again based on literature, and I don't know how much I mean.
5 minutes.
5 minutes. All right. I see. I can talk about it all the time. It seems that according to authors, by 2021, 50% of research queries sent by 2 billion people is going to be mediated by actual voice assistants. So everything we search on the internet will not be directly Google, it will be voice assistant, and we see this especially in the youngest generation. They don't go to browser, they just ask Google. Why would you go to the browser? What for? Just ask Google. As simple as that, and as Generation Z and further generations come, there is a clear path towards AI-mediated communication. So we will trust AI, or we should, but we have to design it so it's trustful. Social media is already moderated by AI. I briefly mentioned that in the panel that Facebook has thousands and thousands of moderators who go through very bad content, and they are psychologically affected. So they try to elevate it by AI. So AI is pre-processing, so it's like doing the first layer of filtering. And then those guys just look at what AI already filtered, so they are spared the hard cases, because it can be really tough, believe me. Like the stuff they go through is terrible. So you couldn't believe what people are able to put online. So AI is more and more employed towards this. So the ultimate goal is to AI will do everything. Yeah, but now we need like thousands and thousands of people still to follow up. But it's there, and so 80% of senior executives worldwide also plan already implemented intelligent chatbots on their websites, and they want to make it part of their business. And we are talking about something much more than popular chatbots where you just ask about basic things. We talk about transactional agents. So you can actually do the thing with the artificial agent. So you can book the flight, you can buy a thing just interacting with AI alone. You don't need a human actor. You can set up a bank account, you can transfer money, everything just purely AI, no call center at all, So, and many of these are also not textual, they're actually like call center. And I don't know if you saw the latest presentation from Google. It was practically indistinguishable from human being. And people got really concerned that there should be a message. The person who called you is artificial person, because you couldn't tell the difference. So Big uptake of AR and VR, that's the major trend, and it's only growing, and investment is only growing. So I'm saying it's not a matter of if, but when, so it's better be prepared. AR is expected to ultimately overtake VR, but in this sense I a bit disagree, because what I saw recently traveling across the world, I see it's basically blending. It's blending into so-called XR, and that's the term used by a lot of professionals and experts of the domain, which stands for extended reality, which takes both AR and VR, because many headsets actually provide both, and you can actually transition from augmented to VR depending on the context. So this is blended, and okay, this is actually, I repeated something here. Anyway, major opportunities, so I want to be positive now. AI can solve a lot of our problems because, as somebody mentioned, they have just more cognitive capacity. No human being can comprehend the big data we have out there. Only artificial intelligence can. So it can actually help solve major climate challenges or medical issues, cancer research, because they can go like how many cases doctor can study? 1,000, 10,000. How many he or she will remember? The AI can go through all the cases, all possible cases ever in a matter of seconds. So, like you see already, like radiologist will be the first job to go, because even the most basic automated radiologist is 10 times better than any human being already in recognizing, problems. So it's already happening, but it's an opportunity because that will allow us to actually provide better treatment, more relevant treatment, less mistakes. Yeah, AI will teach us. AI will support teachers. Maybe they become teachers because they will be tailor-made. They can track progress of students and provide individual teaching for everybody, dependable on their pace. So you can sit home and enjoy tailor-made school curricula that will maximize the efficiency of learning for you because everybody's different. You have 30 people in the class, but everybody's different. Why do you apply 17th century methods to teach? The world has changed, So Finland is very good at this. They are very innovative, and then finally AI will work for us. And I'd like to kind of sum up with those opportunities. So XR definitely will go into education and training. There is no doubt about it. There is push. I was mentioning to Peter, I've been collaborating with Mendeley and Elsevier, which is one of the biggest scientific publishers. They are very interested into bringing education and training into XR, but so are the companies, because just remote training makes so much sense, and XR can bring the solution which is very, very close to real thing, but you save costs, which is time, which is petrol burned, all the things that we associate with meeting here. Everybody here traveled, yeah? I burned a lot of carbon dioxide because I flew from Ireland. I took a taxi, whatever. That's a lot of cost just to be here for one day when you think about it, right? It could be possibly avoided with VR, XR. So these are the things that we have to consider. And it's an opportunity. And new interactive XR media are coming. We've heard that TV is pretty much dead. And that's a fact. They go below 50%. Actually, I think the newest news was that, the British, it was something about soccer, that they didn't provide a contract to TV station anymore. They provide now, they provide streaming service. They didn't secure for the first time contract with any TV station. They offer API for streamers to jump in and use this API. So TV is losing the major revenue stream, which is sports. The advertising is already gone. So we see a massive decline of classic TV. But like the new XR experiences are actually flourishing. So we see there is convergence of XR. Like a friend of mine has a so-called VR TV studio, which is blending VR with TV. So you can have people in any possible environment you want, and they can be live. Yeah, and it's almost indistinguishable from reality. You don't need to travel anywhere. You just generate it, and it's there, and it's perfect, And it's much more advanced than traditional green screen, if you understand. It's 3 people are there. So it's very impressive. So also in terms of interactivity that is happening, XR AI will help. And finally, the new way of communication. This is me actually with schools, secondary schools. I also, I do a lot of outreach. Like every couple of weeks, I have schools visiting, and I take them on a journey. I introduce them to the world of AR and VR, and we do a lot of social activities. So they are in the real. And this is how they are in VR at the same time. They are actually interacting now in virtual reality, at the same time. So they are now in one space physically, but they could be sitting, everyone, each of them, in their home, and they would be socializing in VR. So we are using here the Altspace VR platform, which is owned by Microsoft now, they acquired that. And I'm using this for a lot of experimentation currently, in terms of communications. I mentioned Facebook is going their full hands. They're going to have Facebook Horizon platforms, I say, mid of this year. We should combine a social platform with Minecraft, with business, Second Life, you remember Second Life? All these things, so Facebook will be completely, so business, leisure, friends, everything will be in VR. Sounds scary, overwhelming, I don't know, I like it. I'm looking forward to it. So to sum up, because everybody's so scared now, digital XR and AI paradise is happening, the future is coming and it's digital. And I finished with kind of a very beautiful pirate painting here, there is a graphic. Do you know what was one of the major commandments of pirates? It's from Pirates of Caribbean. I don't know if it's real, I don't know. Do you know what was one of the major commandments? Okay, I'll help you. Who stays behind is left behind. So whether you like it or not, this is happening. You can choose to jump off the bandwagon, but that's the way it is. It's like, these days people choose to quit social media, to isolate themselves. And I tell you, sooner or later you come back because you're socially excluded. You don't know what's going on, you don't know what's happening, you don't know what your friends are doing. So with all the negative side, if you disconnect, you are literally socially excluded and you miss out. So there's nothing else to do but to adapt, but also to, I think, address all those things till it's time. So I would say the whole XR and AI is at the well-developed but still .com stage. You remember the .com boom, right? It's like all the web started and people paid millions of dollars for the website, for domains. So this is like now, this is the moment, everything is just grassrooting and going very, very fast. So I think this is the best time for people, for researchers, for people working in ethics, humanities, to actually step in and define this space before it's defined by tech companies. Because that's what's going to happen. If you don't step in now and you don't define anything there, they will do what they think is right, what is good for the business first. So what can bring profit, and maybe some new models, business models will be developed. Like we see social media business model is not the best. Maybe it could be better if people stepped in early enough. But it is what it is. So I would say what we discussed today, as I mentioned that in the panel, is the world of yesterday. I encourage you to look at the world of tomorrow. And okay, we have to fix the world of yesterday, but let's look into the future. Let's look what can be done with the new technologies, which are just behind the corner, are going to change our life. These things, they say, the magnitude of impact by experts is estimated to be by far bigger than mobile phone revolution. This will change everything we do every day in any way. So I encourage you not to stay behind, but to stay with us. And thank you very much. That was the presentation from Contact. Basically contact us. So this is our website, our Twitter account, of course, because we're social media, not yet VR, but we are on all social media, on Twitter and Facebook. And if you want to link with me directly as well as coordinator, here are my links too. So I will be very happy to link with you all, to listen to what you have to say, and maybe some suggestions of what else we can tackle. The project is still running till October. We have a few more events to attend. Stay tuned for more. We are presenting especially Bisera is Nothing in Eurodig 2020, which will be a big event. Hopefully we'll be also in Ministerial Conference in Cyprus. Fingers crossed. Where a lot of representatives from all around Europe will come and discuss the future. So yeah, stay tuned for more, and do encourage you to stay in touch with us. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much, Lukasz, for this stimulating talk. I must admit that I'm a bit afraid that your not afraidness was scary for some of us. So I can only imagine that there are many questions or protests or add-ons or whatever you like to do in the few minutes that you're still with us. Please, go ahead.
Do you think this is the third industrial revolution?
I would say so. It's really, we are going digital, full hands, you know, and it's happening. It's happening. Again, I'm a bit afraid that Europe is really behind already. So we have to really do a lot to catch up if we really want to stay in this race and stay competitive. As we all know, the Industrial Revolution started with Britain and it spread throughout the world. So let's say Europe had an edge before. Now we are already losing, and we are losing literally, you know?
Please go ahead.
So, you were saying about the opportunities AI brings, and I agree, it opens new doors and new opportunities. But I think maybe we're progressing without actually thinking of the consequences it will have on us. Because there you said that they will teach for us and they will work for us. So what's going to be our purpose if they're doing our jobs? If we have IA being policemen or doctors, what will we do?
It's a very philosophical question, but I think I'm hopeful. I'm not a philosopher. Very real. But I can say what I deeply believe, and maybe some people in the industry and in research agree with me, is that when you look at the ancient times, when you look at all these guys we worship, like Aristotle, Socrates, all these big guys, they didn't work. They didn't work. They had an army of slaves working for them, which was very bad. But they didn't work, so it didn't prevent them from having a purpose in life, right? They actually did magnificent things. So I think actually we made an interesting loop here. We made an interesting loop here where we are kind of going back to that, let's say, system, but in a positive way, because we don't need to make use of people as slaves anymore. We have robots, we have AI, which will not suffer to do the work. But anyway, I think we definitely decouple work from human and human purpose, right? So, yeah, okay.
So, just a second, please. One more question, and then your neighbor, please.
Yeah, but we're not looking, at least for me, I'm not looking at my future job as like slave work, because it's what I think will be my purpose here, to
Yes.
work for something.
Yes.
So if I have someone else, an AI doing that for me, what is my objective here? Is it to just watch Netflix?
I think we will never run out of creative work. I think that's where it's shifting. I think it goes towards creative work, and especially jobs which are purely mechanical will go first. So manufacturing, go. Okay, I think manufacturing is not the most exciting, fulfilling work ever. You know, going every day, putting stuff. No, this is not fun. Believe me. You know. Okay, drivers. Maybe it's exciting, maybe not. I don't know, but this is not super creative work. This will go. So a lot of, I think, works which do not require creative thinking and original contribution will go. But I don't think the very genuine works, again, creative works, will go anytime soon, because robots are not creative. They can combine facts, they can do a lot of marvelous things, but they are, as of now, they are not creative, and I don't think they will anytime soon. So I think it's just a bit of a shift into the nature of the work which will be more, maybe a bit more intellectual, more creative. Arts, for sure, arts will be on increase. Just wait for it, you know. So anyway, just to
please.
My question is similar, but now focused on economical factors. So, because if AI is replacing a lot of services, where will the money go? Because it won't go for the people providing the service. It will be going for the company that owns the AI. So where do we produce money for us, and not only for the big companies that will monopolize the AI sector?
This has been already considered, and lucky enough, the owners of the biggest companies actually are quite positive about it, in a way that they propose the universal basic income.
And do you believe on that?
I think.
Do you believe on that?
No, but let me say
That's a good question. Do you believe on that?
I think there is no escape from that. I believe that basically the work will be done and the value will be created. Value will be created, but who benefits from that value? So there should be special taxes, there should be special way of getting this value monetized. And if you look, even in China, you say, okay, China made its economy based on cheap labor, right? Even the largest Chinese manufacturers, now they change everything into robots. So people are, half of those factories, they're all robots now. So they don't use workforce anymore.
We are mixing that.
No, but
You
then,
are
okay.
mixing the concept.
But bear with me, we have only a few time left. So Victor first, then you.
I just want to be provocative.
Yeah,
We have all seen Skynet,
yes,
right?
yes.
I'm not
Terminator, yes, yeah, that's Terminator.
So, if they decide how will robots or artificial intelligence decide who deserves cancer treatment or who deserves euthanasia because it's too painful for them?
You see, so that's why very early in robotics there was the set of rules for robotics, and actually a lot of scientists in the domain sign off to this. You know, that the basic rights that the machine can never harm, and so on and so forth. So this is so people working, for instance, in defense.
I'm not talking about harming. It's a decision.
Yes.
If they have the say on the treatment, how will they decide who deserves treatment or who deserves euthanasia because they are?
But you see, that's the same question like how the car decides whom to kill when there is an accident.
It's a question of
Exactly.
ethical
Yeah.
values.
So I'm saying,
Ethical values.
I'm saying, so yeah, but now it's done by a human being, and I would question whether a decision made by a human being with our limited cognition would be better than artificial intelligence. Maybe not.
It's not fair.
Dependable on the
You
situation.
are
Because
always running out of the question.
So
Always running out.
Katarina, please.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to help, but on a very positive scenario, people will have more free time. We won't be slaves. We have more time to converse to each other. So we are actually, on a positive side, we're going to, how do you picture this? What are we going to do with the free time? Are we going to finally interact with each other? Or in the negative scenario, we'll actually be poor. Because if Europe is already behind, Europe is going to work for someone, and to which extent this is actually good. You know, do you see how very positive?
yeah, so I will start with the first thing you mentioned. So we will have more time. There's no doubt. Then how we accommodate the free time, whether we watch Netflix or something else. This is happening already now. We have a lot of automotion. We have much more free time than people living medieval times, yet we waste a lot of time. I think definitely because of social media, the way it went forward, we already started to think about it. People think about the addiction, about the implications. It's already happened. People already realize that there is risks attached. And interestingly enough, that's also mentioned by people like Mark Zuckerberg and owners of those platforms. At the last conference, Mark Zuckerberg actually said it. He said, we have thousands of friends, but most of your links are meaningless. You know? So what we want to do? We want to support meaningful interaction. And what he meant, this is actually one of the reasons why he invests into VR, because he said he foresees that when social networks will go towards XR, the number of links will drop. You will have maximum 50, maybe 60 friends, maximum. And you will interact with them in a more meaningful way, because those experiences will be more like real experiences, so you will not waste time with total strangers. You will probably stay more in more constructive interactions. So actually one of the reasons they move to VR is they say because we want less but more meaningful communication. That's one of the things. Yeah.
We have two more questions and then we can continue.
That's a lot of
So please.
So my question is connected to the Terminator question, but
yes.
From the there are movies called Blade Runner,
yes.
And they are more, I think, more realized than
yes.
or more believable that they are becoming more powerful. These androids, they are becoming more human than human.
Yes.
And is it a possibility that they will outgrow us and we will be secondary species? So we will be the prominent.
Again, this is a very deep question, but I would like to support myself by the Yuval Harari Sapiens book. I don't know if you ever heard of it. It's very good. Also, book Homo Deus, which is the second one, and the author, he's Israeli. very famous now. He looks at what is now, and actually he looks at the whole history of mankind, and then he looks into the future. And he said, there is no escape from three scenarios, because we will change this way or the other. One is we will continue augmenting ourselves with technology, which we do now. We augment our senses. I'm talking on the phone with the person who's on the other side of the earth, right? I cannot reach them by my voice or my ears, but I'm augmenting my senses, so suddenly I'm talking to somebody on the other side of the earth. I'm now augmenting myself. Now it's a separate device, maybe it will be integrated in my ear in 10 years. And we use all kinds of devices that change the way we are, the way we behave. It's actually already proven that the way our brain works is already altered. There's physical changes in our brain because of the way we use the internet, we browse. There is architectural changes. So we do change. So that's scenario one. We continue augmentation, external augmentation. Second is biological change. This is very controversial, but it's probably will happen this way or the other. DNA manipulation and augmenting us to make us better. You know, somebody says Europe will never do it, US will never do it. But if China does it, China generates an army of geniuses with IQ of 250, and they will develop technologies that we'll never dream of. Don't you think people will fall for it and say we have to stay competitive because like what can we do? So that's one thing. And the third thing is we become more and more digital, and what you said, the difference between AR and ourselves will blend. So this is the future, I don't know. This is the future he sees, and he believes there is no escape from that. That's just my comment on that.
One last question, please. Sorry.
Oh, me?
Please.
Yeah, do you think it's very possible, is it like a real possibility that we're already in virtual reality right now?
Yeah, it's a very interesting question. Funny enough, a lot of big guys in tech, like Elon Musk, and actually a lot of physicists and mathematicians believe that this is a possibility. Because I also like Matrix. I think that's why people like Matrix so much, because it gives you, it leaves you with this doubt, you know? How would you know if it's real, if you can touch, you can't smell, you can't see the jail you're in? If all our senses are covered, and if you look at the development of VR and game technology, the games 20 years ago were squares and circles, you know, they were just whatever. Now you have photorealistic graphics with PlayStation 4, Xbox, it's really becomes like reality. This will go to VR, so imagine how the games will look in 100 years. That will be just completely indistinguishable from reality. So I would say, I wouldn't say for sure, but I would keep it open as a possibility.
So one thing I'm sure of is, no, two things. First, the time is over. Second, I'm quite sure that we do not exactly know how our future will be.
Yes.
But I'm sure that we have a role to play in the future that we're going to have. And thank you very much for having illustrated it very brilliantly today. Thank you very much.